The sun bleeds across the horizon as dust devils dance through the empty streets of San Cristo, Texas. A lone figure kneels in the garden behind Grace Redemption Church, his calloused hands working the dry earth. Jacob Reeves pauses, wiping sweat from his brow, his eyes catching the glint of morning light on his old dog tags before tucking them back beneath his collar. The low rumble of an approaching vehicle breaks the silence. Through the chain-link fence, a beaten-up Ford pickup pulls into the church parking lot. Maria Gutierrez stumbles out, clutching her sleeping 6-year-old daughter. Blood trickles down her face. "You're safe here. Come inside, quickly," Jacob guides them through the back entrance, past the empty pews, into a small room lined with cots. Other families are already there, women, children, elderly, all with the same haunted look in their eyes. They said they would kill us if we didn't let them use our house. My husband. They took him 3 days ago. God brought you here, Maria. Rest now. I'll make some calls. In his office, Jacob stares at the photo on his desk. Him in full SEAL gear, standing with his unit in Afghanistan. He opens the bottom drawer, pushes aside his Bible, revealing a satellite phone. His fingers hover over the keypad before he pulls back, replacing the phone. A sharp knock at the church's front door. Sheriff Mills stands there, his badge gleaming in the morning sun, but his eyes are cold. Pastor Reeves. "Word is you're running some kind of shelter here." "Just doing the Lord's work, Sheriff. These people need help." Mills steps closer, lowering his voice. "You're interfering with business routes that don't concern you. Certain people are losing money. I'd hate to see something happen to this nice church of yours." Jacob's face remains peaceful, but his stance shifts imperceptibly. A predator's muscle memory. "I appreciate your concern, Sheriff, but my door stays open to those in need." Mills spits into the dust. "Your funeral, Pastor." That evening, Jacob leads the evening prayer service. The small congregation, a mix of locals and refugees, joins hands in a circle. Through the stained glass windows, dark SUVs cruise past slowly, their occupants watching. "Lord, guide us through these troubled times. Give us the strength to stand firm in our faith and the wisdom to know your path." After the service, Deacon Matthew pulls him aside. "Those men watching the church, they're cartel scouts. Everyone knows it. Maybe we should call the authorities." Jacob places a hand on his friend's shoulder. "We are doing God's work, Matthew. He will protect us." But his eyes drift to the window where another black SUV rolls past. In the reflection of the glass for just a moment, his peaceful expression slips, revealing something harder, something forged in combat and blood. That night, Jacob kneels alone in the church, moonlight streaming through the windows. His prayer is interrupted by the sound of spray paint outside. He doesn't move, continuing his prayer as the vandals mark their territory. "Lord, give me the strength to stay on your path, to be the shepherd these people need, not the weapon I once was." But even as he prays, his hands have already curled into fists, and in the darkness of the empty church, the line between pastor and warrior begins to blur. Dawn breaks over San Cristo. Jacob stands in front of the church, washing away the crude threats sprayed across the walls. A group of children play soccer in the dusty lot nearby, their laughter a stark contrast to the tension in the air. Inside his office, Jacob opens his laptop, scanning through surveillance camera footage he installed weeks ago. Multiple vehicles, regular patterns. He catches himself falling into old habits, tracking, analyzing, preparing, and quickly closes the laptop. The morning service begins. Jacob takes his place at the pulpit, looking out over his congregation. Some faces are new, still bearing fresh bruises. Others have been here for months, slowly healing. All of them looking to him for guidance, for protection. Today's sermon is about Daniel in the lion's den, about standing firm in faith despite threats and violence, about choosing peace even when surrounded by enemies. But as Jacob speaks of divine protection, his mind is already calculating sight lines, defensive positions, potential weapons. A cell phone buzzes during the sermon, One of the cartel's local enforcers, slouched in the back pew, makes no attempt to silence it. He stares directly at Jacob, a mocking smile on his face as he takes the call. Jacob continues preaching, his voice steady, but beneath his calm exterior, beneath the collar and vestments, years of combat training whisper strategies for neutralizing the threat. 3 seconds to close the distance, another 2 to disable. The enforcer's neck is exposed, vulnerable. After the service, Jacob walks the church grounds. He passes the garden where they grow. Food for the homeless. The classroom where they teach English to refugees. The nursery where children play safely while their mothers rest. All of it built with faith, maintained with prayer. All of it now under threat. Evening falls. Jacob stands at his office window, watching another cartel vehicle circle the block. In his reflection, he sees 2 versions of himself overlaid, the pastor in his collar and the warrior in his combat gear. For now, the pastor still holds control. For now, prayer still drowns out the muscle memory of violence. But as darkness settles over San Cristo, even Jacob doesn't know how long faith alone can keep the warrior at bay. Because with each passing night, with each new threat, with each frightened face that seeks sanctuary in his church, the line between shepherd and soldier grows thinner, and in the distance, thunder rolls across the desert like the drums of war. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. The congregation's voices fill Grace Redemption Church, sunlight streaming through stained glass, casting rainbow shadows across weathered faces. Jacob stands at the pulpit, eyes closed in worship, when the heavy wooden doors burst open. Boot. Steps echo through the sanctuary. The singing dies. 5 men in tactical gear stride down the center aisle, submachine guns held casually but visible. Their leader, face scarred and cruel, stops at the first row. A gold crucifix hangs mockingly around his neck. Keep singing. Don't let us interrupt your holy moment. Jacob opens his eyes, his expression serene despite the terror rippling through his congregation. Mothers pull children close, men shift nervously, the air grows thick with fear. Welcome to God's house. All are welcome to join us in prayer. The scarred man, El Diablo, laughs, the sound like broken glass. We're not here for salvation, Pastor. We're here for business. He strides to the pulpit, boots echoing on wooden steps. His men spread through the church, fingers resting near triggers. El Diablo reaches into his jacket, pulls out a thick envelope, drops it on Jacob's Bible. Protection money. For your charitable work. Times are dangerous. Would be a shame if something happened to all these innocent people. Jacob doesn't touch the envelope. His eyes meet El Diablo's, calm blue against cold black. I appreciate your concern, but we're under God's protection here. El Diablo's hand shoots out, grabs Jacob's collar, yanks him close. Your God isn't here, Pastor, but we are. Jacob doesn't resist, doesn't fight. But for a fraction of a second, his weight shifts, muscle memory calculating the exact force needed to shatter El Diablo's jaw, collapse his throat, end the threat. The moment passes. Jacob remains still. Little Miguel, watching from the front pew, sees something flash in the pastor's eyes, something that makes him think of a nature documentary he once saw. A wolf, pretending to be tame. Violence has no place in this sanctuary. El Diablo shoves him back, spits on the Bible. You have 1 week. Pay, or we burn this place down, with everyone in it. He turns, stalking down the aisle. At the door, he pauses. One of his men whispers something, pointing at Maria Gutierrez and her daughter. El Diablo smiles, the wife of Juan Gutierrez. Tell your husband when he crawls out of whatever hole he's hiding in, he still owes us, and debts must be paid. Maria clutches her daughter tighter, trembling. Jacob's hands grip the pulpit, knuckles white. The old wood creaks under his grip. The cartel men leave. The door slams. Silence fills the church like smoke. Jacob straightens his collar, picks up his Bible, carefully wipes away the spit. My brothers and sisters, let us pray. That night, Jacob walks the church grounds, unable to sleep. The security cameras he installed catch movement, shadows slipping through darkness. The sound of spray paint hissing against walls. He lets them work, watches through cameras as they desecrate his church. Only when they're gone does he step outside with a flashlight. Red paint drips like blood. Pay up or die, crude skulls, satanic. Symbols, a reminder that evil never sleeps. Dawn brings his congregation back, gasping at the destruction. Jacob stands ready with paint and brushes. Together they begin to clean. Deacon Matthew works beside him, voice low. They're not just threatening you anymore, Jacob. These people, they're going to get hurt. Jacob dips his brush in white paint, covering a painted skull. Then we'll protect them. How? We're not soldiers. We're not fighters. We're just... Jacob turns to his friend, paint dripping from his brush like tears. We're shepherds, Matthew, and shepherds protect their flock. But his voice carries an edge now. Steel beneath silk, and in the morning sun, his shadow on the church wall looks less like a pastor and more like something else. Something dangerous. The day passes. Jacob leads another service, stronger than ever. His sermon speaks of Daniel, of unwavering faith in the face of lions. His congregation draws strength from his courage, but that night, alone in his office, Jacob opens his laptop, studies the footage of the vandals, memorizes faces, vehicles, patterns. His fingers move across the keyboard with practiced efficiency, muscle memory from years of mission planning rising to the surface. A knock at his door. Maria Gutierrez enters, eyes red from crying. They found Juan in the desert. They made an example of him. Jacob stands, moves to comfort her, but she backs away. My husband tried to stand up to them. Look what happened. Maybe we should just pay. Jacob's response is gentle, but there's steel beneath the words. Evil thrives when good people give in to fear. Maria leaves. Jacob returns to his desk, opens the bottom drawer. Beneath his Bible, the satellite phone sits silent. Next to it, a small key. He takes it, walks to the church basement. In the darkest corner, behind old hymnals and Christmas decorations, a locked trunk holds remnants of another life. Combat gear, weapons, tools for dealing with evil in ways prayer cannot. Jacob touches the key to the lock, hesitates, withdraws. Not yet. There must be another way. Morning brings the sheriff, smirking at the fresh paint covering vandalism. Told you, Pastor. Smart men know when to pay their dues. Jacob continues painting, doesn't look up. Christ paid all our debts, Sheriff. No other payment required. Mills grabs his arm, hard. Listen, you stubborn fool. These aren't men you can pray away. They'll kill every person in this church, including the kids. Now Jacob does look up, and for just a moment, Mills sees something in those eyes that makes him step back. Something that doesn't belong in a pastor's gaze. Then maybe you should do your job, Sheriff. Protect and serve. Or does your badge come with a cartel bonus? Mills pales, releases Jacob's arm. Your funeral, Pastor. And everyone else's, too. Evening prayer service. The congregation is smaller now. Fear has claimed some, but those who remain burn brighter with faith. Jacob leads them in prayer, eyes closed. Through his eyelids he sees muzzle flashes in distant deserts, hears explosions behind hymns, tastes gunpowder mixed with incense. The service ends. People file out into the darkness, hurrying home. Jacob watches from the door, marking which cars follow his people, making mental notes, planning. In his office, he opens his Bible. A photograph falls out, his SEAL team, standing beside a burning compound. On the back, a message. Sometimes God's work needs wolves, not sheep. Jacob tucks the photo away, but that night, kneeling alone in his church, his prayers change. Lord, forgive me for what I may have to do, and if violence must return to my hands, let it be your will, not my own. Outside, another Cartel SUV circles the block, Inside, Jacob's fingers trace the key in his pocket, and in the space between prayer and action, a warrior begins to stir beneath the shepherd's robes. Thunder rolls across the desert, or maybe it's the sound of drums, war drums, calling a sleeping soldier back to battle, the last rays of sunlight. Paint Grace Redemption Church in blood-red hues as children play soccer in the dusty lot next door. Miguel Rodriguez, 12 years old, scores a goal and turns to wave at his father watching from the church steps. Antonio Rodriguez smiles, but his eyes keep scanning the street, watching for black SUVs. Jacob walks over, rests a hand on Antonio's shoulder. Your testimony to the DEA was brave. Standing up to evil takes courage. Antonio's smile fades. I shouldn't have spoken. Juan is dead because he stood up to them. Maybe if I just... The screech of tires cuts him off. 2 SUVs roar around the corner. Men in masks pour out, weapons raised. Get inside. Jacob's voice carries the snap of command. Parents grab children, rushing for the church doors. Miguel is too far away. A masked man snatches him before he can run. Antonio starts forward, but gunfire kicks up dust at his feet. El Diablo steps out of the second SUV, walking casually through the chaos. See what happens when sheep try to bite back? Jacob moves to the edge of the church steps, hands raised. His voice remains calm, but his stance shifts subtly. Feet positioned for explosive movement, weight balanced like a coiled spring. Let the boy go. Your quarrel is with his father. El Diablo laughs. You still don't understand, Pastor. Our quarrel is with anyone who defies us. He nods to his men. They drag Miguel into the SUV. The boy screams, cutting through the evening air. Antonio tries to rush forward again. Jacob catches him, holds him back as the vehicles roar away. In the silence that follows, Antonio collapses to his knees. They're going to kill him, like they killed Juan. Oh God, my son. Jacob helps him up, his expression hardening. No, they won't. Inside his office, Jacob opens the locked drawer, pulls out the satellite phone. A voice answers on the first ring. Snake, that you? Been a long time. Commander, I need intel on cartel operations near San Cristo, specifically locations where they might hold hostages. There's a pause. This official or unofficial? Unofficial. And, Commander, I need it fast. Within an hour, encrypted files fill Jacob's laptop. Surveillance photos, property records, known cartel safe houses. His fingers fly across the keyboard, muscle memory from countless mission briefings taking over. A knock at the door. Deacon Matthew enters, sees the military intel on the screen. What are you planning? Jacob closes the laptop. To negotiate, peacefully. Matthew steps closer. The look in your eyes isn't peaceful, Jacob. Sometimes the shepherd must bare teeth to protect the flock. That evening, Jacob drives to the cartel's local headquarters, a sprawling ranch house outside town. Guards with automatic weapons watch him approach. El Diablo receives him in a gaudy office, gold cartel tattoos visible beneath his open shirt. Pastor, come to make a payment? I come with an offer. Take me instead of the boy. I'm worth more as a hostage. The whole town respects me. You can use... That El Diablo studies him, then smiles. You're right. You are worth more. The punch comes without warning. Jacob lets it land, though every instinct screams to counter. More blows follow. He takes them all, remaining passive, even as old combat intuitions catalog each attacker's position, stance, vulnerabilities. Blood drips from his lips as they drag him outside. El Diablo follows, amused. You know what your problem is, Pastor? You're weak. Your God is weak. Down here, we are gods. Through swollen eyes, Jacob watches the compound, notes guard positions, entry points, arsenal locations. His SEAL training catalogs it all automatically, even as they beat him. You're wrong. God is here, watching, judging. They dump him on the church steps just before dawn. Matthew finds him, helps him inside. Jesus, Jacob, what did they do? Jacob wipes blood from his face. showed me their operation, all of it. That night, fever dreams, blur past and present. Jacob floats between memories, leading his SEAL team through mountain caves, leading his congregation in prayer. The faces of men he's killed merge with the faces of those he's saved. He wakes to his phone buzzing. A video message. Miguel, beaten but alive, crying for his father, for God, for help. Jacob sits in the darkness of his room, head bowed. On the wall, his ordination certificate hangs next to a shadowy space where his silver star used to be. Lord, give me guidance, show me the path. Thunder rolls across the desert, or maybe it's something else, something from his past, calling him back to war. Dawn finds him in the church basement, key in hand, standing before the locked trunk. Inside, ghosts wait, weapons, tactical gear, tools for righteous violence. His hands shake as he opens it. The familiar weight of his combat knife, the smooth grip of his sidearm, body armor that still fits like a second skin. Matthew finds him there. Jacob, there are other ways. Law enforcement, the FBI. Jacob checks his weapons with practiced efficiency. They killed Juan in front of the sheriff's station. The FBI won't move fast enough to save Miguel, but this path, it leads to darkness. Jacob looks up, his eyes changed. Already holds none of the pastor's warmth. Sometimes the only way to fight darkness is to step into it, carrying light with you. He begins to gear up. Each piece of equipment awakens muscle memory. Combat instincts rise to the surface like sharks, scenting blood. What about your congregation? They need their pastor. They need their shepherd, and sometimes the shepherd must become the wolf. Night falls over San Cristo. Jacob kneels at the altar one last time, no longer in his collar, but in tactical black. His prayers have changed. Lord, forgive me for what I must do, and if violence must return to my hands, let it be your instrument of justice. He moves through the darkness toward his vehicle. Inside, weapons wait. Intelligence reports marked targets, a warrior's tools replacing a pastor's Bible. Behind him, the church bells toll, marking the hour, or maybe marking the death of Jacob the pastor, and the resurrection of something else, something that remembers the taste of war. In the Cartel compound, Miguel prays in a locked room, tears running down his face. Outside his window, a shadow moves through the darkness, silent, lethal. The shepherd has become the wolf, and the hunt is about to begin. Moonlight silvers the desert as Jacob moves through shadow, his steps silent despite the rocky terrain. The Cartel safe house squats against the horizon, a fortress of stucco and surveillance cameras. Guards patrol the perimeter, automatic weapons slung across their chests, joking in Spanish about their young hostage. Through his scope, Jacob counts bodies, 8 outside, unknown number inside. His finger traces the cross hanging beside his combat knife. One last whispered prayer, then the warrior takes over. He ghosts between blind spots in the camera coverage, movements fluid, precise. A guard rounds the corner, cigarette dangling. Jacob flows from shadow, one hand clamping the man's mouth, the other finding pressure points. The guard slumps silently, the first time touching an enemy in over 5 years. His body remembers everything his mind tried to forget. Radio chatter crackles. The guard should have checked in. A second man approaches, weapon ready. Jacob becomes smoke, letting the patrol pass within inches. The guard never sees the hand that ends his consciousness. Inside his mind, mission parameters crystallize. Primary objective, extract Miguel. Secondary, gather intel, rules of engagement. His conscience wrestles with that last part. The pastor argues for mercy. The SEAL remembers what cartels do to children. A security camera pivots. Jacob slips through its arc, reaching the building's shadow. Above, a second-floor window glows. Miguel's voice carries down, praying in Spanish between sobs. 2 guards flank the back door. Their weapons are clean, professional. These aren't street thugs. Former military, probably Mexican special forces. Good. He knows how they think. The guards drop simultaneously, precise strikes turning off consciousness like flipping switches. Jacob catches both bodies before they fall, eases them down. Inside his mind, a mission clock ticks. 4 minutes until the next radio check. The door lock yields to practiced hands. He flows inside, becoming one with darkness. His movement patterns draw from years of CQB training, slice the pie around corners, control fatal funnels, maintain tactical breathing. A guard emerges from a bathroom. Jacob's knife hand twitches, but the pastor whispers restraint. Instead, a chokehold. One more body hidden in shadows. Voices drift down from upstairs. Miguel crying. A guard taunting him in Spanish. Rage builds in Jacob's chest, but his movement remains controlled. Emotion is the enemy of execution. 3 minutes. He ascends the stairs like a ghost, years of infiltration muscle memory guiding each silent step. A floorboard creaks. He freezes. Down the hall, a guard looks up from his phone. A moment passes. The guard returns to his screen. 2 minutes. The hallway opens into a central area. 3 guards play cards at a table. Their weapons rest just out of reach. Amateur mistake. Through an open door behind them, Jacob glimpses Miguel tied to a chair. His mind calculates angles, distances, response times. The pastor whispers for mercy. The warrior knows mercy can get you killed. 1 minute. He moves. The first guard registers movement too late. The second manages to half rise before unconsciousness claims him. The third reaches for his weapon. Jacob's elbow ends the threat. 3 bodies. No shots fired. No blood spilled. The pastor whispers, "Thanks." Miguel's eyes go wide as Jacob enters. A finger to lips buys silence as he cuts the ropes. The boy's wrists are raw, face bruised. The warrior catalogs these details for later retribution. 30 seconds. They move through the house like shadows, Miguel following Jacob's hand signals. Perfectly. Smart kid. At the back door, Jacob checks their exit route. Clear, radio squawks. "Where's Rodriguez? Check in. Time's up." They slip into the desert night as shouts erupt behind them. Flashlight beams stab darkness. Boots crunch on gravel. But Jacob knows how to disappear, how to use terrain, how to become invisible. His vehicle waits in a dry creek bed half a mile away. They reach it unseen, engine starting as the first shots. Fire blindly into the night. Miguel huddles in the footwell as Jacob drives, his movements precise, tactical, but something nibbles at his conscience. This was too easy, almost like... Headlights explode behind them. Engines roar. 3 vehicles. In pursuit, weapons bristling from windows. A trap. They let him rescue Miguel to follow him back to the church. Jacob's training takes over. Evasive driving patterns, using terrain for cover. His SUV bounces through dry riverbeds and across rocky plateaus. Miguel whimpers with each impact. "Trust me. I've done this before." The boy looks up, sees something in Jacob's eyes. The pastor is gone. Something else drives now. Something that knows how to survive, how to win. Shots crack past. Jacob jinks the wheel, bullets sparking off rocks. He needs to lose them before reaching town. Before leading violence back to his flock, a narrow canyon approaches, risky. But sometimes faith means trusting your training. He cuts the lights, relying on moonlight and memory. The SUV threads the canyon's throat as rocks scrape both sides. Behind them, one pursuer clips a wall. Metal screams. Flames bloom. 2 left. The canyon walls narrow. Jacob's hands are steady on the wheel, muscles remembering similar chases in other deserts. The pursuing vehicles are faster, gaining ground. The canyon ends in a sheer drop. Jacob downshifts, accelerating toward the edge. Miguel screams. The pursuing vehicles close in, victory in their headlights. At the last possible moment, Jacob cranks the wheel. His SUV slews sideways, finding a hidden trail he scouted days ago. The cartel vehicles shoot past, momentum carrying them over the cliff. Silence returns to the desert. Jacob delivers Miguel to his father at a prearranged spot miles from the church. Antonio weeps, clutching his son. When he turns to thank Jacob, the SUV is already disappearing into darkness. Dawn finds Jacob in his office, washing blood from his knuckles. Not all the guards went down clean. The warrior needed to make examples. He opens his laptop, reviewing helmet cam footage from the raid. Every face recorded, every tattoo, every weakness in their security. Intelligence for later. In the church, he changes back into his collar. But something has shifted. The pastor's garments feel like a costume now. His true uniform is the tactical gear locked in the trunk. A carved wooden cross lies on his desk, left behind at the safe house. His message to the cartel: a shepherd was here, but not a gentle one. His phone buzzes. A message from an unknown number. Grainy video of his raid, shot from hidden cameras. Below it, words in Spanish: "Now we know what you are, Pastor. Now, the real game begins." Jacob deletes the message. They wanted him to show his true nature. Now they'll learn why that was a mistake. The morning sun rises over San Cristo. Jacob leads the congregation in prayer, voice steady despite fresh bruises hidden beneath his clothes. They thank God for Miguel's miraculous return, but in the back of the church, 3 empty pews remind him of the vehicles that went over the cliff. Violence has returned to his life. The warrior has awakened, and somewhere in the desert, blood seeps into sand. A warning carved into flesh, a message to the cartel: the shepherd has teeth. The evening prayer service ends as smoke rises. From the desert, Jacob watches through bulletproof glass he installed last week as taillights disappear into gathering darkness. His phone vibrates, a message from one of his old SEAL contacts patched into border surveillance. They're coming. Full strike team. Heavy weapons. Orders to burn it all. In his office, Jacob pulls up the security camera feeds. Movement on all. Approaches to the church. Professional, coordinated. El Diablo isn't sending thugs this time. These are trained killers. Matthew bursts in, face pale. 3 black vans just turned onto Mason Road. They're carrying, I know. Get everyone into the tunnels. What tunnels? Jacob moves to the wall, slides back a painting to reveal a keypad. During the renovation work, the basement connects to old Prohibition smuggling routes. I mapped them all. The wall slides open. Matthew stares at the hidden command center, screens showing thermal imaging, weapon racks, emergency supplies. All this time, I knew this day would come. Now move. The congregation hurries into the basement as engines growl outside. Families clutch each other in darkness. Children whimper. Jacob leads them to the hidden tunnel entrance, voice calm despite the steel in his eyes. Follow the markers. They'll lead you to the old Miller Ranch. Sheriffs corrupt, but state police will protect you there. Antonio Rodriguez clutches Miguel's hand. You're not coming with us? Jacob checks his weapons with practiced efficiency. Shepherds don't abandon their flock. Sometimes they have to fight the wolves, but they'll kill you. Jacob's smile is cold. They'll try. The tunnel entrance seals. Jacob moves through his church, muscles remembering combat movements. The pastor's robes are gone, replaced by tactical gear. Each step awakens muscle memory from countless missions. Outside, vehicles screech to a halt, doors slam, orders barked in Spanish. Jacob flows through shadows to pre-positioned firing points. Through his scope, he counts hostiles, 15, well-armed, body armor, night vision gear. They mean to leave no survivors. El Diablo steps out, gold crucifix gleaming. Burn it all. The strike team advances, professionals moving in coordinated pairs, but Jacob spent weeks preparing, studying angles, creating fatal funnels, making his church a fortress. The first team breaches the front door, motion sensors trigger, flashbangs detonate, perfectly placed. Screams echo as the team stumbles, night vision gear amplifying the blast. Jacob moves like smoke. 2 attackers drop before the ringing stops. No kill shots. The pastor's mercy remains. But kneecaps shatter, shoulders dislocate. His hands remember exactly how much force breaks bones. Radio chatter erupts. They realize someone's hunting them. Tactical formation. Titans, they're good. But Jacob's better. He ghosts through his church's shadows. The warrior's mind catalogs every movement, every angle. A lifetime of combat distilled into perfect efficiency. 2 more breach through the side door. Jacob times their entry, drops from above. Bodies crumple. He's gone before their radios crackle. El Diablo's voice carries through the night. Burn it! Burn it all! Molotov cocktails shatter windows. Flames bloom. But Jacob prepared for this too. Fire suppression systems engage. The ancient stones refuse to burn. More attackers enter through smoke. Night vision gear reveals their positions perfectly to Jacob's thermal scope. One by one they fall, not dead, but broken. A shot grazes his armor. They're adapting, learning, professional soldiers adjusting to the threat. But this is Jacob's ground, his fortress, his killing floor. He flows between prepared positions, every angle covered, every approach trapped. The warrior's mind sees the battlefield like a chess game. Positions, counterpositions, victory through superior preparation. 3 more try to flank through the chapel. Tripwires catch them. Flashbangs disorient. Jacob's hands deliver precision. Violence. More bodies, more screams. El Diablo rages outside, ordering more men in. But his professionals are hesitating now. They've lost half their force to an invisible enemy. The smart ones begin to retreat. A voice carries through the smoke. "Who are you?" Jacob's reply echoes from shadows. "The shepherd of this flock." Movement above. They've reached the bell tower, snipers taking position. Jacob triggers charges planted. Days ago, the tower remains standing, but debris rains down. More broken bodies added to the count. Only 5 left now. The professionals are done. They drag their wounded back to vehicles. Only the true believers remain, driven by El Diablo's fury. The cartel leader himself strides through the front door, gold crucifix swinging. His remaining men spread out, guns tracking shadows. "Come out, Pastor! Face me like a man!" Jacob watches through cameras as they move deeper into his killing ground. The warrior's mind calculates angles, timing, force required. In the chapel, El Diablo fires into darkness. "Your God can't protect you." Jacob's voice seems to come from everywhere. God helps those who help themselves. A shadow detaches from the ray. Rafters. Before El Diablo can turn, pain explodes in his knee. He sprawls beside the altar, gun skittering away. His men rush in. More shadows move. More bodies fall. In seconds, only El Diablo remains, clutching his shattered knee. Jacob emerges from smoke like a spirit of vengeance. Gone is the gentle pastor. A warrior stands in his place, eyes cold as desert nights. El Diablo spits blood. "Kill me then. Finish it." Jacob ejects his magazine, drops his weapons. "I'm still a shepherd. I don't kill sheep, even lost ones." His hands move with surgical precision. Pressure points, nerve clusters. El Diablo screams once. Then darkness takes him. Dawn spreads across San Cristo. Jacob stands in his church's doorway, watching state police swarm the scene. El Diablo and his men lie zip-tied in the parking lot, broken but breathing. The congregation emerges from tunnels, stunned by the devastation. But their church still stands. Their shepherd still guards the door. Sheriff Mills arrives, face pale, as he sees the carnage. His radio crackles. FBI en route. Questions will be asked. Jacob meets his eyes. "I have some questions too, Sheriff, about cartel payoffs." About looking the other way. Mills swallows hard. Jacob's smile is razor-sharp. Time for confession. The morning sun rises over San Cristo. Jacob leads his flock back into their church. His collar hangs loose over tactical gear. Blood stains the altar steps. But his people are safe. The wolves are broken. And in the desert, whispers spread of the shepherd who fights like a demon. El Diablo's crucifix hangs on Jacob's office wall, a reminder. The cartel thought they were hunting sheep. They found a wolf instead. Moonlight paints the desert in silver as a convoy of semi-trucks winds through mountain passes. Cartel shipment, high value. Guards with military-grade weapons scan the darkness, nervous after weeks of mysterious attacks on their operations. Above them, on a ridge, Jacob watches through his scope. Intelligence gathered from El Diablo's captured. Men confirmed this route. Tonight, the shepherd becomes the hunter. His radio crackles. "Snake, you sure about this? Your old team's ready to assist." Jacob's voice is gravel and steel. "This is between me and them, Commander, but thanks for the intel." The convoy approaches the choke point. Jacob checks his watch. 3, 2, 1. Remote charges blast the cliff face. Boulders cascade onto the road, trapping the convoy. Guards pour. From vehicles, weapons ready. Professional, alert. It won't save them. Jacob becomes shadow, flowing down the ridge like smoke. The first guard never sees what hits him. The second manages half a turn before darkness claims him. No kills. The pastor's mercy remains. But bones break with surgical precision. Shots crack through darkness. They're firing blind, fear making them sloppy. Jacob moves between muzzle flashes, his hands delivering righteous violence. Years of combat training flow through muscle memory. The guards never stood a chance. 10 minutes later, Jacob cuts open the lead truck's trailer. Pure heroin. Street value in the millions. Enough poison to destroy countless lives. He plants charges. Steps back. The explosion lights up the canyon like false dawn. Let them see the smoke. Let them know the shepherd is hunting. Dawn finds him in his church office, studying cartel communications intercepted by his old SEAL contacts. Matthew enters, eyes widening at the intelligence spread across screens. This is more than defense. Now, you're hunting them. Jacob's hands move across his keyboard, analyzing data. They brought war to my church, to my people. Now they'll learn what war really means. But the congregation, they're asking questions about the violence, about you. Through the window, Jacob watches children play in the churchyard. Safe, protected, for now. Sometimes the best defense is a strong offense. His phone buzzes. A message from a cartel lieutenant he captured last night. The man broke easily, eager to save himself. Coordinates to a main operation hub across the border, the heart of their network. Jacob's tactical mind analyzes possibilities, angles, approaches, weaknesses. The warrior awakens, hungry for battle. Matthew sees the change in his friend's eyes. "This isn't you, Jacob. You're a shepherd, not a soldier." Jacob stands, checking his weapons with practiced efficiency. "I'm whatever my flock needs me to be." Night falls over San Cristo. Jacob moves through the church basement, preparing gear. Each piece of equipment awakens combat muscle memory. The pastor recedes. The warrior rises. His phone buzzes again. A video. El Diablo, face bruised but eyes burning with hate, stands in what looks like a fortress. "You want war, Pastor? Come to Mexico. Come see what real violence looks like." GPS coordinates flash across the screen. A challenge, a trap. Jacob's hands check his weapons, muscle memory anticipating combat. The basement door opens. Antonio Rodriguez enters, face grim. "We know what you're planning. Let me help. I have contacts across the border." Jacob studies his friend. "The cartel killed your wife, threatened your son. You should be far from here." Antonio's eyes harden. "Some things are worth fighting for. More." Church members appear, former soldiers, ex-cops, citizens tired of living in fear, all volunteers, all ready to fight. Jacob looks at their faces. The warrior sees tactical assets. The pastor sees souls in his care. The man caught between sees something else, hope. But this path, there's no turning back. One of the volunteers steps forward. a retired Force Recon Marine. We passed the point of no return when they attacked our church. Now we finish it. Jacob checks their weapons, corrects their stances. Combat knowledge flows through him like a dark river. Each volunteer receives a crash course in tactical movement, CQB, infiltration. By midnight, his strike team is ready, not professionals, but dedicated, determined. Sometimes faith and righteousness are stronger than skill. They gather in the church for a final prayer. Jacob stands before them in tactical gear, collar still around his neck. The warrior and the shepherd merged into something new. Lord, guide our hands, and forgive us for what must be done. Dawn approaches as they cross the border through smuggler tunnels. Jacob moves point, leading them through darkness. His warrior's mind catalogues every sound, every shadow. The cartel's fortress rises from desert hills. Guards patrol walls topped with razor wire. Machine gun nests cover approaches. A professional defensive setup. Jacob's team moves into position, not soldiers, but shepherds defending their flock. The cartel built this fortress to keep enemies out. They're about to learn that the real threat was already inside. The sun rises over Mexico. In San Cristo, Jacob's congregation prays for their shepherd's safe return. But the man moving through. Cartel Shadows isn't their gentle pastor anymore. He's become something else, something that remembers the taste of war. And the cartel is about to learn why some shepherds have teeth. The first explosion rocks the fortress foundations. The hunt begins. Steam rises from coffee mugs in Jacob's kitchen as he and Matthew pore over satellite photos of cartel compounds. Dawn creeps through windows, painting walls in soft gold. For a moment, it feels like peace. The coffee tastes wrong, bitter. Matthew's face goes slack as he slumps forward. Jacob's warrior instincts scream danger, but his limbs won't respond. Drugged, amateur mistake, letting his guard down. Through blurring vision, shadows detach from corners. Professional operators in tactical gear, not cartel thugs, mercenaries, high-end. Jacob forces his body to move, but the sedative is too strong. A figure steps into the light. The mercenary commander, face hidden behind a carbon fiber mask. Our employer says hello, Pastor. Matthew tries to stand, fighting the drugs. The commander's handgun cracks. Blood sprays across satellite photos. Jacob lunges, despite paralyzed. Muscles, but more hands grab him. The commander leans close. El Diablo sends his regards and a lesson about consequences. They drag Jacob to his feet. His tactician's mind catalogues details through the haze. 6 operators, special forces training, custom weapons. The cartel hired professionals. Watch this, Pastor. Watch what happens to sheep who follow a wolf. Matthew bleeds on the kitchen floor, gasping out a prayer. The commander raises his weapon. Again, Jacob strains against his captors, tendons cracking. The gunshot echoes like thunder. Matthew's prayer ends mid-word. Something breaks inside Jacob, not his body, something deeper. The thin wall between pastor and warrior shatters. Blood roars in his ears as combat instincts surge through drug-numbed limbs. His elbow strikes a throat. A wrist breaks. The commander's weapon cracks again, hitting Jacob's shoulder. Pain ignites adrenaline, burning away sedatives. The warrior emerges fully. His hands remember death. 3 mercenaries fall before they realize the drugged pastor is a threat. The 4th manages to raise his weapon. Jacob's fingers find familiar pressure points. The operator drops, nerveless. The commander backs away, firing. Bullets impact Kevlar beneath Jacob's shirt. He advances through gunfire like an avenging angel, eyes burning with unholy fire. Save your bullets. You'll need them in hell. Combat flows like a dance. The commander is good, special forces trained, experienced. But Jacob isn't fighting with skill anymore. He's fighting with rage, with grief, with the full fury of a shepherd watching wolves slaughter his flock. Bones crack. Blood sprays. The commander screams once before silence returns. Jacob kneels beside Matthew's body, blood soaking, into his knees. His friend's eyes stare sightless at the ceiling. The last prayer dies in the morning air. Lord, forgive me for what comes next. He carries Matthew's body to the church, lays it before the altar. The morning sun streams through stained glass, painting the scene in colors of fire and blood. His phone buzzes, a video message from El Diablo. The cartel leader's face fills the screen, smiling. Did you enjoy my gift, Pastor? There's more coming. Every hour, another member of your flock dies. Until you kneel before me, Jacob's hands don't shake as he checks his weapons. The pastor's mercy died with Matthew. Only the warrior remains. His congregation gathers, drawn by the news of Matthew's death. They find their shepherd changed. Gone is the gentleman of God. Something terrible has taken his place. They killed him because of me. Because I showed mercy. That ends today. Antonio steps forward. The whole town is talking. They say you're hunting the cartel. They say you've become death itself. Jacob's laugh holds no humor. Death is too quick. I've become something worse. He moves through his church like a ghost, gathering intelligence. Tactical plans form in his mind. No more measured responses, no more mercy. The cartel thought they were fighting a shepherd. Time to show them the wolf. His phone buzzes again. Another video. A family from his congregation tied up in a warehouse. A countdown clock. 1 hour. Jacob's tactical mind analyzes the video. Background details. Ambient sounds. Location markers. The warrior knows this game. He calls his volunteers. Their voices are hard now, tempered by Matthew's death. They've seen what mercy costs. This time we're not taking prisoners. They gear up in the church basement, weapons checked, ammunition distributed. Jacob leads them in prayer, but it's not a prayer for peace anymore. Lord, grant us not mercy, but victory, not forgiveness, but vengeance. The countdown ticks. Jacob's team moves through the desert like shadows. The warehouse comes into view. Guards patrol the perimeter, alert but unprepared for what's coming. Jacob's voice carries across tactical radio. Matthew was a man of peace. Honor his memory with war. They attack like demons. No more non-lethal takedowns, no more mercy. The guards fall before they can radio warnings. Inside, the hostage family cowers as Jacob's team breaches doors. Cartel soldiers die in clusters, caught by surprise. The warriors' hands deal death with terrible efficiency. One survivor, one message to send. Jacob carves a cross into the man's chest. Not a sign of mercy this time, a mark of judgment. Tell your masters the shepherd has become the wolf, and I'm coming for the flock. Dawn breaks over San Cristo. Jacob stands in his church, Matthew's blood still staining his clothes. His congregation whispers, sensing the change in him. Some call him hero, others monster. The truth lies somewhere between. The warrior has fully awakened. The pastor is gone. And in the desert, a new legend spreads. They say he moves like smoke, kills like lightning. They say he's not a man anymore, but vengeance given form. They say the shepherd has become death itself. Jacob loads his weapons as the sun rises. In his mind, Matthew's last prayer echoes. But he's not listening to prayers anymore. He's listening for screams. Desert wind howls across the border crossing as Jacob's team melts into shadows. No customs check, no paperwork. They move like ghosts through smugglers' routes, following intelligence gathered from broken cartel soldiers. Night vision reveals a killing field ahead. Cartel spotters, motion sensors, counter-surveillance equipment. They're expected. Good. Jacob signals his team. Former congregants now transformed into warriors. Their movements flow with practiced precision after weeks of combat. Faith replaced by fire. A spotter's cigarette glows in darkness. Jacob's knife ends the light. Another sentry dies silently as Antonio takes position with a sniper rifle. The warrior's dance continues. Through his radio, intel feeds from his old SEAL commander. Cartel chatter suggests they've found unlikely allies. Los Quebrados, a rebel. Faction of former cartel soldiers seeking revenge against El Diablo. Jacob's tactical mind weighs options. Rebels mean intelligence, support. But dealing with criminals, Matthew would have called it crossing a line. Matthew is dead. The rebel. Camp sprawls in a hidden valley. Guards watch approaches with military precision. Their leader, Cruz, was Mexican Special Forces before El Diablo betrayed him. Jacob's team makes contact. Weapons raised on both sides until Cruz steps forward, scarred face haunted by old violence. The ghost pastor. We've heard stories. Jacob's voice carries no emotion, just truth. I'm here to destroy them. All of them. Cruz studies him, recognizing the look of a man who's lost everything except purpose. We have intelligence, support, but our help has a price. Everything has a price now. The rebels share intel, blueprints, guard rotations, security protocols. El Diablo's operation is vast. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking. An empire built on suffering. Cruz's lieutenant points to a computer screen, their main processing facility. Heavily guarded, multiple layers of security, a fortress. Jacob absorbs details with cold precision, points of entry, fatal funnels, fields of fire, the warriors. Mind converts information into action plans. A rebel technician speaks up. There's something else. In the sublevels, surveillance photos appear. Children in cages, women chained to walls, the future product of El Diablo's expanding empire. The last ember of Jacob's mercy dies. His team prepares for war. The rebels offer weapons, equipment, support. Cruz watches them train, seeing familiar darkness in their eyes. They're not your congregation anymore. They're becoming something else. Jacob checks his weapons. We're becoming what's necessary. Night falls. Jacob leads a reconnaissance mission to the facility's perimeter. Through thermal imaging, he counts guards, catalogs security patterns, plans, angles of attack. A patrol passes below their position. Jacob remains motionless, but his hands itch for violence. Soon, the rebel camp buzzes with preparation. Cruz's men respect Jacob's tactical expertise, following his lead as he plans the assault. Even criminals recognize true darkness. Antonio finds Jacob alone, studying facility blueprints. The congregation is worried. They say you've lost your way. Jacob's laugh holds no humor. I haven't lost my way. I've found it. But this path, it leads to damnation. Jacob turns, eyes reflecting firelight like a predator's. Then I'll meet them all in hell. Dawn brings more intelligence. Rebel infiltrators report increased security. El Diablo knows they're coming, knows his death approaches. Good. Let him feel what terror tastes like. Cruz's rebels gear up alongside. Jacob's volunteers, former enemies united by revenge. The warrior sees only assets, resources, means to an end. They do a final gear check as the sun sets. Weapons cleaned, ammunition distributed, night vision calibrated. Jacob leads them in what used to be prayer. Now it's a promise of violence. The facility rises from desert darkness like a monument to evil. Guard towers sweep searchlights across killing fields. Machine gun nests cover every approach. Jacob's voice whispers across tactical radio. For Matthew. The first explosion breaches the outer wall. Guards die in clusters as Jacob's team attacks from multiple angles. The rebels provide covering fire, keeping reinforcements pinned. They flow through the facility like death itself. Room by room, floor by floor, no mercy, no hesitation. The warriors' hands deal judgment with terrible efficiency. Security footage feeds to El Diablo's command center. The cartel leader watches Jacob's advance with growing fear. Not human. Movement. Something else. Something worse. The sublevels reveal horror. Cages filled with broken people, evidence of atrocities that cry out for vengeance. Jacob's team evacuates survivors as explosive charges turn the facility into hell. Let it burn. Let it all burn. Dawn breaks over smoking ruins. The rebels collect intel, weapons, anything useful. Cruz finds Jacob standing among the destruction. You've started a war that can't be stopped. Jacob's eyes reflect flames. I'm finishing one. There's a difference. His phone buzzes. El Diablo's face fills the screen, fear finally showing through rage. You think this matters? I have more facilities, more soldiers. You can't kill an empire. Jacob's smile promises violence. Watch me. The rebels offer permanent alliance. Their resources, their soldiers, their intelligence network, all in service of revenge. The warrior accepts. The pastor would have refused. But the pastor died with Matthew. They move deeper into Mexico as the facility burns. Jacob's tactical mind already planning the next target, the next victory, the next step toward El Diablo's destruction. His congregation prays for his soul. But souls are for the living. And Jacob died in that kitchen with Matthew. Now he's become something else, something that lives in darkness, feeds on violence, deals in death. The shepherd has become the wolf. And the hunt is just beginning. Lightning splits the Mexican sky as Jacob studies the Cartel fortress through rain-streaked optics. El Diablo's main compound sprawls across the mountaintop like a medieval castle. Guard towers, machine gun nests, helicopter pad, a monument to criminal empire. Cruz settles beside him, both men concealed in the observation post they've maintained. For 3 days. Their intel suggests something big is happening inside. El Coyote arrived an hour ago. Jacob's hands tighten on his rifle. El Diablo's enforcer, ex-Mexican Special Forces turned cartel executioner, the man who trained the team that killed Matthew. Through thermal imaging, they watch guards patrol in professional patterns. These aren't street thugs. These are trained killers. Good. Let them die like soldiers. The storm intensifies as Jacob's strike team assembles. Rebels mix with his church volunteers, all transformed by weeks of combat. Rain drums against weapons and armor as he outlines the assault plan. The warrior's mind sees angles of attack, fields of fire, points of vulnerability. But something else rises beneath tactical planning, anticipation, hunger for violence. Thunder drowns the sound of their approach. Lightning silhouettes the fortress walls as Jacob's team splits into assault groups. The rebel technicians hack security systems, creating blind spots in surveillance. Radio channels crackle with guard chatter. They're nervous. They've heard stories about the ghost pastor, the demon who can't be killed. Time to give them new stories. About judgment. About consequences. The first explosion breaches the outer wall. Guards die in clusters as Jacob's team attacks from multiple angles. Rain turns to steam as muzzle flashes light up the night. They flow through the compound like death itself. Room by room, floor by floor, the warrior's hands deal violence with terrible efficiency. No hesitation. No mercy. Security footage feeds to El Coyote's command center. The enforcer watches Jacob's advance with professional assessment. Not human movement. Something else. Something worse. Jacob's team reaches the inner courtyard. Helicopter rotors spin up as El Diablo attempts escape. Antonio's sniper shot ends the pilot. No one leaves. No one escapes judgment. El Coyote's voice booms over compound speakers. Come face me, Pastor, or I start executing prisoners. Through helmet cam feeds, Jacob sees captured rebels dragged into the courtyard. Cruz tenses beside him, but the warrior's mind stays cold. Tactical. This was always a possibility. More lightning illuminates the scene as Jacob steps into the open. Rain streams off his tactical gear as he advances. El Coyote emerges onto a balcony. Golden Desert Eagle aimed at a prisoner's head. One enforcer versus one warrior. Like old times, yes? Before you hid behind. A collar. Jacob's voice carries despite the storm. You killed my friend, El Coyote laughs. I've killed many friends, many brothers, many children. What makes yours special? The warrior flows into motion. Gunfire erupts as Jacob Dodge rolls behind cover. El Coyote's shots are precise, professional. 2 rounds impact Jacob's armor before he reaches shelter. You're good, Pastor. Special Forces trained. But I was Special Forces before you played soldier. Jacob's team provides covering fire as he advances. The enforcer retreats inside, leading him deeper into the fortress. The warrior recognizes the tactic, drawing him into prepared killing grounds. Perfect. They dance through corridors like demons. El Coyote's shots are lethal, precise. Jacob's returns are calculated, herding the enforcer toward his chosen battleground. More guards emerge. Die. The warrior's hands deal death without thought, without emotion. Only purpose remains. El Coyote's voice echoes. You think you're righteous? You think this is justice? Look at yourself. Look what you've become. Jacob advances through gunsmoke, a shadow, a ghost, something born in violence and baptized in blood. I've become necessary. The enforcer retreats to his personal armory, reinforced doors, bulletproof glass, a fortress within, a fortress. Jacob allows himself a cold smile, exactly as planned. El Coyote's laugh carries through speakers. You followed me, Pastor, into my domain. Now you die. Hidden weapons activate. Automated turrets emerge from walls. The enforcer grins behind bulletproof glass as his kill room comes alive. But the warrior planned for this. Counted on it. The detonator clicks. Charges planted days ago by rebel infiltrators reduce the armory to chaos. El Coyote's scream is drowned by explosions as his fortress becomes his tomb. Jacob advances through smoke and debris. The enforcer lies trapped beneath fallen equipment, golden desert eagle just out of reach. Professional courtesy makes the warrior kick the weapon away before kneeling. For Matthew, El Coyote spits blood. El Diablo will burn your church, kill your people, destroy everything you love. Jacob's voice is ice. I don't love anything anymore. That's what makes me dangerous. The enforcer's eyes widen, seeing something terrible in Jacob's gaze. What are you? The warrior's hands move with surgical precision, not killing strikes, something worse. The enforcer's screams echo through the fortress. Let pain be your confession. Dawn breaks over the smoking compound. Jacob stands in the courtyard as rebels secure the facility. El Coyote's broken body decorates the front gate. A message, a warning. Cruz approaches carefully, seeing the darkness in Jacob's eyes. We found documents, bank accounts, properties. El Diablo's entire network. Good. Now we know where he's hiding. But the compound's cameras caught everything. The violence, the brutality. Your congregation will see what you've become. Jacob watches the sun rise, blood drying on his hands. I've become what's necessary, what's required. His phone buzzes. El Diablo's face fills the screen, fear finally showing through rage. You want to find me, Pastor? Come to my cathedral. Come see what true devils look like. Coordinates flash across. The screen, a challenge, a trap. The warrior's hands check weapons, muscle memory preparing for war. The rebels offer support, soldiers, weapons, intelligence. But this final battle requires something else, something darker. Jacob moves through the compound like a ghost, gathering ammunition, equipment, tools for righteous violence. The warrior's mind plans angles of attack, fields of fire, points of execution. His congregation will pray for his soul. But souls are for the living, and Jacob died in that kitchen with Matthew. Now he's become something else, something that lives in shadow, feeds on violence, deals in death. The shepherd became the wolf. Then, the wolf became the demon, and demons can't be stopped until hell. Itself burns. El Diablo's cathedral rises from mountain mists like a twisted mockery of faith. Gothic spires, stained glass, holy ground corrupted by evil. Through his scope, Jacob counts guards patrolling the grounds, professional, alert, expecting him, perfect. The warrior's mind analyzes approaches as dawn bleeds across the sky. Cruz's rebels hold position in the surrounding hills, waiting for his signal. But this final battle isn't for them. Some sins require personal attention. Jacob moves like smoke through morning shadows. His tactical gear blends with darkness as he plants charges at key structural points. The warrior's hands work with mechanical precision, muscle memory flowing like dark water. Guards pass within inches, never seeing him, never sensing death's shadow. The hunter has become the ghost. Through stolen security feeds, he watches El Diablo prepare in his private chapel. The cartel leader kneels before a golden altar, praying to whatever dark god serve his purpose. Surrounded by his elite guardians, Jacob's voice whispers across tactical radio. Commence diversion. Explosions rock the outer walls as rebels attack. From multiple angles, guards rush to defensive positions, professional training responding to threat, never realizing they're being drawn away from their true purpose. Protection. The warrior flows through blind spots in security coverage. More. Charges placed. More timers set. The cathedral's architecture works against its defenders, creating fatal funnels. Kill zones. El Diablo's voice carries through hidden speakers. Come to confess your sins, Pastor? Jacob advances through shadows, his reply cold as desert nights, only here to deliver judgment. The first real resistance comes in the cathedral's grand entrance. Elite guards, ex-special forces. They die with professional efficiency, bodies arranged in positions of prayer. A message. A promise. Security cameras track his advance. El Diablo watches from his chapel as the warrior flows through his defenses like dark water. Not human movement, something else, something worse. More guards emerge from side passages, die in clusters. The warrior's hands deliver violence with terrible precision. No hesitation, no mercy, only purpose. Through his tactical radio, Rebel Overwatch calls targets, tracks enemy movement. But Jacob barely hears. The warrior's mind operates on instinct. Now, pure predator. El Diablo's laughter echoes through Baroque corridors. You think this is righteousness? Look at yourself. Look what you've become. Jacob catches his reflection in stained glass. Tactical gear smeared with blood, eyes burning with unholy fire. No longer the shepherd, no longer even the wolf. Something else. Something necessary. The cathedral's layout channels him toward the private chapel, exactly as expected. El Diablo's trap awaits, prepared with professional precision. Hidden weapons, automated defenses. A killing ground designed for one target. The warrior allows himself a cold smile, exactly as planned. More guards await in the chapel's antechamber, die in sequences, each death a step closer to judgment, to revelation, to the final accounting alums. Diablo's voice drips with mockery. Still playing the holy man, Pastor? Still pretending this is God's work? Jacob advances through gunsmoke, death flowing from his hands like dark blessing. Not pretending anything anymore, not since Matthew. The chapel doors swing open. El Diablo stands before his golden altar, surrounded by elite guardians. His smile shows gold teeth as hidden weapons emerge from walls. Welcome to my church, Pastor. Let us pray. The battle erupts like unholy thunder. Guards die in precise sequences as Jacob dances through prepared kill zones. Each movement calculated, each shot precise. The warrior's mind sees only angles, trajectories, points of execution. El Diablo's automated defenses activate. Turrets emerge from angel statues. Gas floods sacred spaces. The cartel leader's laugh echoes through chaos. I learned from El Coyote's mistake. This holy ground is prepared for demons like you. But the warrior planned for this, counted on it. Charges planted during his advance detonate in synchronized destruction. The cathedral's defenses collapse into chaos. Jacob flows through smoke and debris like a vengeful spirit. Guards fall before him, their professional training useless against something beyond humanity, beyond mercy, beyond redemption. El Diablo's smile falters as his guardians die. Real fear shows through his golden facade as the warrior advances. Not human movement, something darker. What are you? Jacob's voice carries no emotion, just truth. I'm what you created, what you needed me to become. The cartel leader backs away, gold crucifix glinting. His last guards form a defensive line, die trying to protect their master. Their bodies fall in poses of supplication. Judgment comes for all sinners. El Diablo turns to run, finds all exits sealed. The warrior has herded him exactly where death waits, where justice demands its due. You think killing me ends anything? I'm just one head of the Hydra. Others will rise. The cartel is forever. Jacob's hands move with surgical precision, disarming the cartel leader, breaking bones with methodical purpose, not killing strikes. Something worse. Pain can be a path to redemption. El Diablo screams as the warrior's hands extract confession, names, locations. The entire cartel network laid bare through suffering, through revelation, through righteous violence. Dawn's light streams through shattered stained glass as Jacob stands over his broken enemy. The cathedral burns around them, charges reducing evil's temple to cleansing flame. The cartel leader spits blood onto sacred stone. Kill me then. Finish your holy work. Jacob checks his watch. Synchronized charges count down across the compound. The warrior's mind calculated this moment with cold precision. God's work is finished. This is something else. He walks away as explosions begin. El Diablo's screams fade beneath the cathedral's death throes. Sometimes judgment requires more than death. Sometimes it demands spectacle. Outside, rebels secure the compound's perimeter. Cruz watches the cathedral burn with professional appreciation. The entire cartel leadership, all their records, everything. Jacob's hands check weapons with mechanical efficiency. Not finished. Cells remain. Operations continue. Evil endures, but they'll know now. Know what hunts them, what judges them, what delivers righteous violence from shadows. His phone buzzes, messages from his congregation, prayers for his return, for his soul, for his salvation. The warrior deletes them all. Souls are for the living, and he died in that kitchen with Matthew. Now he's become something else, something that lives in darkness, feeds on violence, deals in death. The shepherd became the wolf, then the wolf became the demon, and demons can't rest until all hell burns. Smoke still rises from the Mexican desert as Jacob crosses back into Texas. News helicopters circle the burning cathedral like vultures. International headlines scream about the cartel's destruction, El Diablo's empire reduced to ashes, but victory tastes like ash in his mouth. Grace redemption. Church stands empty in the morning light. Yellow police tape flutters across the doors. FBI vehicles crowd the parking lot. Through his scope, Jacob counts federal agents cataloging evidence, building cases, following violence back to its source. He ghosts through the desert, avoiding roadblocks. His tactical mind catalogs pursuit patterns, escape routes, safe houses prepared months ago. The warrior operates on instinct now, pure survival. His burner phone buzzes. Cruz's voice carries warning. Federales found the bodies. The evidence. They're calling it a massacre. Jacob's laugh holds no humor. They should see what a real massacre looks like. But the rebel leader's next words cut deeper. Your congregation is talking to the FBI, telling them everything. Through high-powered optics, Jacob watches federal agents interview his people, sees fear in their eyes, sees them cross themselves when they speak his name, no longer their shepherd, something else now. Antonio Rodriguez approaches the agents. Jacob's enhanced audio picks up fragments. Changed him, turned him into something terrible. The warrior's hands check weapons with mechanical precision, but for the first time since Matthew died, they shake slightly. Cruz's voice softens. There's still work here. Cartel cells reforming. Territory disputes. We could use someone with your talents. Jacob watches a young mother hurry her children past his church. They cross the street to avoid walking near it. Sacred ground now tainted. By violence, some prices are too high. He moves through the town like a ghost. Past the diner where he used to counsel troubled teens. Past the park where he baptized new believers. past Matthew's grave, still fresh in the cemetery. Everywhere, whispers follow. Stories of the shepherd who became death, the pastor who brought hell to earth, the holy man who fell from grace. His tactical radio crackles. FBI chatter about expanding the manhunt, international warrants, extradition requests. The warrior's mind calculates odds, evaluates options, plans contingencies. But something else rises beneath tactical thinking, something that tastes like regret. Night falls over San Cristo as Jacob slips into his church through hidden passages. The FBI missed some of his preparations. Amateur mistake. In his office, evidence of his former life remains. Photos of baptisms, marriage certificates he signed, counseling notes from troubled souls seeking peace. All of it feels like artifacts from another man's life. His sat phone buzzes. His old SEAL commander's voice carries concern. Snake, it's gone international. Interpol, CIA. Every agency wants the ghost pastor. Jacob moves through darkness, gathering essential supplies, cash, weapons, documents. The warrior operates on autopilot while something else stirs in his soul. Commander's voice softens. What happened to you, Jake? This isn't the us. Man, I knew. The church's security cameras show federal agents returning. Among them, Sheriff Mills, the corrupt lawman singing like a bird to save himself. Jacob's hands curl into fists. Still work to be done, still evil to punish. But his commander's words cut through vengeance. Your path ends one of two ways, prison or dead. Come in, let me help. Through cameras, Jacob watches his congregation gather outside, not for service now, for interviews, for investigations, for exposure of his sins. Some carry signs. False shepherd, killer, demon. Others weep, remembering the gentle man who once led them, the pastor who became the wolf, the shepherd who lost his way. His tactical radio warns of approaching vehicles, FBI tactical teams, Delta Force operators, professional hunters coming. For the ghost, Cruz's voice offers escape, safe houses in Mexico, new identity, new crusade against evil. But as Jacob watches his congregation through cameras, something breaks inside. Not his warrior spirit, something deeper. Young Miguel Rodriguez stands with his father talking to agents. The boy Jacob saved now fears him, crosses himself at the mention of his name. The sat phone buzzes again. Commander waiting to help, to save what remains of his soul. But souls are for the living, and he died in that kitchen with Matthew. The FBI approaches in tactical formation, professional, careful, hunting a ghost. Jacob's warrior mind analyzes angles, fields of fire, points of escape. The tactical path is clear. Violence offers freedom. But as he raises his weapon, photos catch his eye, his congregation, his flock, the souls in his care. What have I become? The tactical radio crackles with assault preparations. Time running out. Decision required. Through cameras, he watches more congregation members arrive, not to help the FBI now, to pray, to remember their shepherd, to mourn what was lost. The warrior's hands check weapons one last time, muscle memory flowing like dark water, but something else flows too, something that tastes like tears. Dawn breaks over San Cristo as federal agents breach the church. They find only shadows, empty rooms, a ghost's passing. On the altar, Jacob's collar lies like an abandoned skin. Beside it, his weapons, his tactical gear, the tools of righteous violence, and a note written in a hand that shakes slightly. Lord, forgive me. The shepherd is gone. The wolf is gone. Only the man remains, and men must answer for their sins. Federal prison walls rise like monuments to judgment as Jacob sits in his cell, reading Matthew's worn Bible. 6 months since he walked into the FBI field office, since he laid down his weapons and surrendered his war. The media called it the longest confession in Texas history. 4 days of testimony, cartel operations exposed, corrupt officials named, evil dragged into light. His warrior spirit wanted to fight, to escape, to continue righteous violence, but something else won, something that remembered mercy. The cell door opens. Antonio Rodriguez stands there with federal agents. His testimony at Jacob's sentencing changed everything. Not a criminal, he told them, a protector who lost his way. Time to go home, Pastor, Texas. Sunlight blinds him as Jacob steps into freedom, his sentence commuted for cooperation, for exposure of corruption, for choice of surrender over violence, but his hands still remember death. Grace redemption. Church appears through heat waves as the federal vehicle approaches, the building restored, bullet holes patched, scars healed even if memories remain, faces watch from windows as Jacob steps out, his congregation, his flock, the souls he abandoned for vengeance. The church bells begin to ring. At first, just a single tone. Then another joins, another. The entire congregation pulling ropes, calling their shepherd home. Jacob's steps falter. His tactical mind catalogs threats, escape routes, defensive positions. The warrior dies hard, but something else moves him forward, something that tastes like grace. The doors open. His people fill the church, not all of them. Some will never return, some wounds never heal, but enough to matter. Young Miguel Rodriguez stands at the altar, older now, stronger. The boy Jacob saved has become a man who understands hard choices. He holds out Jacob's collar. Sometimes the shepherd must bare teeth. Jacob's hands shake as he takes it. These hands that dealt death, that delivered violence, that abandoned mercy for vengeance. Now they must learn to heal again. His first sermon is about redemption, about falling from grace, about finding your way back from darkness. The congregation listens. Some weep, some nod with understanding, some still fear him, but they're here, choosing faith over fear, choosing redemption over rejection. Through the windows, federal agents watch, his parole officers, his witnesses, making sure the warrior stays buried. But as Jacob speaks of grace, something shifts in their eyes. They see not the ghost who haunted cartels, not the demon who burned cathedrals. They see a shepherd finding his way home. After service, his people approach one by one, some offering forgiveness, some seeking understanding, some just needing to see him as a man again, not a weapon, not a wolf. Just a shepherd who lost his flock and fought to bring them home. Antonio stays after the others leave. Your war changed things. The cartels fear this border now, fear churches, fear shepherds. Jacob's hands fold his collar, these hands that once brought violence. Now they must bring peace. But the warrior whispers from shadows. Evil still exists. Wolves still hunt sheep. And sometimes shepherds must remember their teeth. Night falls over San Cristo as Jacob walks his church grounds. Security cameras still. Watch. Defensive measures remain. The warrior's preparations hidden beneath sacred ground. But something else watches too. Something that tastes like redemption. His phone buzzes. Cruz's voice carries news of cartel movement, territory disputes. Power vacuums in the wake of El Diablo's fall. Jacob's warrior spirit stirs. His hands remember combat, remember righteous violence. But the collar around his neck remembers something stronger. The next morning, he leads prayer service. His congregation grows weekly, lost sheep returning, new souls seeking shelter. They know what he was, know what he did, know what he's capable of, but they also know grace. Federal agents rotate surveillance shifts, watching, waiting, expecting the warrior to emerge, but they see only the shepherd now, a man who chose mercy over violence, peace over vengeance, most days. Sometimes at night Jacob walks the border. His tactical mind catalogs cartel movement, tracks evil's return. The warrior whispers strategies, battle plans, ways to deliver righteous violence from shadows. But the shepherd whispers louder. His congregation brings news of trouble, of evil's slow return, of wolves circling the flock. Jacob listens, the warrior plans, the shepherd prays. And sometimes, in darkness, teeth flash. A year passes. Grace Redemption Church becomes a sanctuary again, a place of healing, of redemption, but also of strength. The cartels never return to San Cristo. Their evil finds easier targets, gentler shepherds. They remember the ghost pastor, remember righteous violence, remember judgment. Jacob leads his flock in peace now. His hands bring healing instead of harm, but beneath his collar the warrior remains, watching, waiting, ready if wolves return, because some shepherds must be both light and shadow, both mercy and justice, both peace and sword. The church bells ring over San Cristo, calling the faithful, reminding the wolves. And in his church, a shepherd stands guard. His hands remember violence, his heart remembers mercy. Both are necessary. Both are true, because sometimes the hardest grace is accepting that light needs shadow, that peace needs strength, that shepherds need teeth. The end.